loss. It typically begins to affect men and women during the aging process, usually around 65, but there are things that can lead to earlier hair loss as well. You might be surprised to know that it's a dermatologist that you go to for diagnosing and treating hair loss. Dr. Deborah Dorrell, a dermatologist at Novant Health Premier Medical Associates in Winston-Salem, is joining us today to discuss all different types of hair loss and what you can do about it and the treatments. She's taking your questions as well about hair health. So we want you to text us that question, 336-379-5775, and get your question answered. All right, so Dr. Dorrell, hair loss, it can be caused by a whole bunch of different things. Like what?
Great question. Hair loss is a huge field within dermatology. The most common things are male pattern hair loss and female pattern hair loss. I think we've all seen people with those or maybe have experienced it ourselves, but there are lots of other things. So for example, changes in diet, changes in weight, nutritional deficiencies, certain medications, different illnesses that cause stress to the body. And an important one are inflammatory hair loss disorders that we specialize in dermatology.
Okay, and we're going to definitely talk about those. But the next follow-up question that I have is, how does a dermatologist determine what the cause of your hair loss is?
So the first thing we do is ask a bunch of questions, and then we evaluate the scalp itself. So different hair losses present with different patterns on the scalp, and there are different findings you can see. Some are flaky, some have redness, and some you can pull the hairs right out at the root. So it involves history, talking with the patient, as well as looking at the skin itself.
Okay, and other things that you listed about, like the vitamin deficiencies, hormones, you know, all that kind of stuff, what's the most common?
I do see quite a few vitamin D deficiencies that probably have some impact on hair growth. And then there are a lot of people who have thyroid diseases. So those usually get discovered by other physicians, and then they come to us with hair loss, and that's another common one.
And are we talking about hair loss like a lot of us, we brush our hair and then there's a whole bunch of hair in the brush? Are we talking about stuff like that? Or are we talking about like really segments of hair from the scalp that are just gone?
So each hair loss presents differently. Shedding events are when you kind of see those clumps coming out, and that's common after you've had a virus or a pregnancy, or like if you're going through chemotherapy or medications like that. Female pattern and male pattern hair loss, those are more progressive. So you just kind of notice that your hair looks a little thinner over time. And then there are certain types of alopecia or hair loss where you see like a perfect circle of baldness where the rest of the scalp is normal. So it very much depends.
Okay, so let's talk about that, the alopecia, because we've been hearing about that. A lot of people in Hollywood have it, that kind of thing. And so it's gotten a little bit more like, you know, awareness about it.
Yes, so alopecia in dermatology is a broad general term that means hair loss or baldness. And within that umbrella of dermatologic conditions, there are many different types of alopecia. So a lot of people come into me and say, I have alopecia. And it's like, okay, well, let's find out what kind, because every kind is treated differently and is caused by something different. So there's a whole host of things. I think when people say alopecia or they hear about it in mainstream media, it's usually alopecia areata, and that's the typical bald patches that can either be localized as small circles or eventually extend to every single hair on the body.
Every single hair, like eyebrows, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a variant called alopecia universalis. So everything from hairs on your head to hairs on your toes.
All right, and is there a cure for alopecia?
There is no cure, but we have really promising medical treatments that have recently become FDA approved and are becoming used more and more frequently with very excellent results. So it's actually an exciting field right now.
Okay, so I guess my thing is, when should someone be concerned about their hair loss, how much their hair they're losing, or like maybe what it looks like?
Sure. So to start, everyone does shed hair. You lose between 50 and 100 hairs a day. That's normal. So if you see them coming out in the shower, when you're brushing your hair, that's okay. If you see a marked change, that's when you should seek advice or a consultation with a dermatologist. So a change is in, it used to be, you know, a normal amount of hair loss. Now it's really coming out in clumps. And then looking and seeing a difference. And to be honest, most people come in and they say, my hair is so much thinner, and I can't tell yet It takes about 50% of hair loss for an outsider to notice a visible change in density. So I think it happens a lot sooner than we even realize medically because people know their hair the best. If it's thinning and you can tell, it's reasonable to see us.
All right. What about those over-the-counter like shampoos and things that say that they can help with hair loss?
I think there are a lot of products that are not helpful, but are marketed for things like that. And the most important thing is to check the active ingredients in it. There are some over the counter things or like med or like the online physician can prescribe you things and they have real medicines in them. And those might be helpful. And depending on your type of hair loss could be beneficial. But there are a lot of things that are quote unquote snake oil and I don't think are very helpful. So I urge people to either check with someone, a physician, or look at the active ingredients and do a little bit of home research.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about, because this is the name that everybody knows, Rogaine, that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that. We're going to take your questions when we come back, 336-379-5775.